to be talking to you, belladonna. Should've taken a break, not an Oxford comma. Take what I want when I wanna, and I want you.
Nara back again. So I'm giving my fingers crossed that this will be a very short video, because I don't want to belabor this point. I don't want to even talk excessively about this point. This is already giving me a migraine as it is, and life is just too short, and I'm just like, why? Just why? So anyway, I was on Twitter. I've been taking breaks off and on Twitter because, like I said, my mental health has been going to shit, and I guess social media has not been so helpful. So I've been going in and out of social media, and definitely been avoiding people as much as possible. I needed that. So anyway, like I said, I've been going off and on Twitter, and I just saw a tweet not too long ago, which is funny because apparently it's a reply to another tweet and then another tweet, but the 3 previous tweets have been deleted. So I don't really know exactly how on earth my name made it into that conversation, but basically someone responded to that or replied to that tweet by talking about how that's the difference between Holly Black and Sarah J. Maas, because Holly Black basically really has been, you can tell that she's been writing stories about the fae for years, and she respects the law, and Sarah J. Maas writes fae stories like she just googled fairies, read up on the first link, and just basically winged it from there. Now, as someone who writes, I'll tell you that is not how writing works. It's not that easy. If it was that easy, everybody would write. Trust me, darling. Everybody would write. And yeah, it's not that easy. It is not that easy. But most importantly, I guess it just had me sitting down and thinking and asking questions, because if you spent any amount of time on my channel, you'll know that I am a big fan of the Folk of the Air series. Like, I love that series. Jude Duarte would always be my bae. I love her morally grey, morally complex acts, and the fact that a lot of people don't even like her makes me love her even more, because we all know it as a society, traits we admire in men, we just kind of, it turns us off when it comes to women. And I love women like Jude who can be vicious and manipulative, who have a soft spot, but know that for them to survive in the kind of world in which they've been born, then yeah, they have to bring out their claws and fight their way to the top. And I cannot fault her for that. I love her because of that. So if you spend any amount of time on my channel, you'll know how much I love the Folk of the Air series. It's because of the Folk of the Air series I'm like totally and completely building back my backlog of all Holly Black books, because like she is phenomenal. And that story is amazing. It's short, it's concise, but it is, I love it. It's perfection. But if you also spent any amount of time on my channel, you also know that I am a huge fan of Sarah J. Maas. I legitimately want to have Sarah J. Maas trash tattooed over my ass. That's how much I love her. And do I make apologies for that? No. Like, I'm even wearing my Never Apologize t-shirts to further drive up that point that I love these 2 women. I love their writing. I love their different takes on the fae stories. And I do not understand society's constant need to always pitch like, this person is a better writer, this one did more research. See, I think it still goes back to snobbery among readers. It's the reason why some people would consider Twilight to be total and complete garbage and say that the epitome of vampire stories is Bram Stoker writing us Dracula. And I see nothing wrong in being able to appreciate Dracula for further making the lore of vampires mainstream, you know, for telling us the story about Count Dracula and immersing us in this world and giving us so many of the laws that ended up filtering down to modern day take on vampires. You know, a lot of the lore we know about vampires and how it is that they are treated in other books found their inspiration from Bram Stoker's Dracula. There is absolutely nothing saying that you cannot appreciate Bram Stoker's Dracula and also love Anne Rice's interview with the vampire and still have Twilight be your bread and butter and biscuit and still worship at the altar of Gerald Ward, or giving us the Black Brother Daggerhood, and still love, adore the Suki Stackhouse series. Each of these books fulfill a particular need in people, and people derive different level of enjoyment from them. Some of them they love because of the plot, they love because of how it contributed to the vampire lore, they love because the fact that the book set a trend, especially with regards to vampire. And some of them, they love them because they have romantic undertones. They love them because they are immersing them into the world of vampires, but it's a soft landing. There's nothing wrong with a soft landing, and I think that it's the same thing with books about fae. And it blows my mind, because the same people that are like, oh my god, Folk of the Air series is the epitome of fae stories, and I'm like, I am certain there are people that read a lot of fantasy book that would read the Folk of the Air series, and it might not just be their jam, and to them they'll say that, oh, it does not compare to the Dresden Files. Mary Brennan's Midnight Never Comes. Some people might say it does not compare to a Shonen Maguire's October Day series, or even Julia Kagawa's Iron Face series. Like, everybody, we all appreciate different things about these authors, and the fact that it's once again this old battle of this person is better and this one is trashy and does not put in any work. Like, I repeat once again, do you know how fucking hard it is to write a fucking book? Because that shit is hard. It goes beyond just a Google search and just like, oh yeah, the stories just come their own way. Sarah J. Maas's take on fairies might not be as hardcore as Ollie Black's story, but it does not even mean that Ollie Black's fae stories are hardcore fae stories, because I've read ones that have been more details, more in depth, exploration of what it means to be fairy and what it is to live in Elflands. And I remember distinctly stating this during my wrap-up of the Crow Prince when I first read it, and I stated that Ollie Black kind of just throws you straight into the world of fae, and if it is that you are a beginner and you're just reading the stories, it might take you a while for you to really get into it, understanding the lore, understanding how the world works, understanding the limitations of fairies, and exactly why it is that they are not warm and cuddly and sweet. Like, I appreciate both their takes on it. I think that it's still once again rooted in bookish snobbery. I think it harkens down to, fantasy readers, for example, stating that, oh, epic and high fantasies are the epitome of fantasy, and everybody that reads anything that is not epic or high fantasy is not a true fantasy reader. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can read Lord of the Rings and enjoy it, and at the same time also have an intense appreciation / admiration for the urban paranormal romances that is the Nalini Singh's Guild Hunter series. I can appreciate both, and there is absolutely nothing wrong in enjoying both, and I see no reason why we think that we have to shame one author for their own take on a particular lore just because, according to you think that what they did, the work that they spent months, almost years writing, was just done via Google search. Like, maybe I'm even more offended because I was somehow looped into that tweet, and I should probably mute it, but I repeat, I've not had any energy / strength for Twitter, so it's just been hard, like, even going through that motions and even stressing myself in that way. I just let people like what they like. Nobody has a right to say this is the elevated ideal form of storytelling, whether it is that you're talking vampire stories, or you're talking fae stories, or you're talking angel stories, or you're talking about demonology. Like, let everybody give their own spin to a story. The reason why we purchase books is because we want diverse experiences and we want to see different authors take on this story. If not, every single chosen one book will be exactly like the rest of them. One person sets out to save the world. But the reason why they change and they vary, and no matter how it is that we say the books are very tropey, the reason why they will continue to sell is because each author would always bring their own unique spin and their own experiences into the stories that they are telling. And there is absolutely nothing wrong in appreciating each of those stories on their own merit. And the fact that we're still having this conversation in 2019 makes zero sense. But either way, whatever the case, I will continue to support Holly Black, and I will still be supporting Sarah J. Maas. You can come down to my comment and be like, what the hell are you saying, Nori? It makes no sense. Yeah, but see, that is your own personal opinion. You're allowed to have that. I'm allowed to have my own personal opinion. I'm also allowed to spend my money the way in which I want to spend it. And it brings me great joy, you know, to spend it on books I enjoy. Like, that's just how life is, boo-boo. That's just how life is. Like, I totally and completely have to mute that tweet. But I just saw that tweet and it just got me to thinking, and I'm like, why can't you enjoy both? Why can't you enjoy the fact that the folk of the S series are more plot driven? The romance is there, but it's more of telling individual stories, and then a won't they relationship between the main characters, and also showing just how terrifying the Fae are, and how terrifying a human girl who applies herself, who becomes even more vicious than the Fae, just how terrifying she can be as well. And we love her. There is nothing stating that you cannot get that from the folk of the Air series, and also enjoy the romance and character driven stories that is the Akotar and the Throne of Glass series. Like, too many books exist in the world for you to sit your ass on one and be like, oh my god, it's total crap and garbage. Like, nobody forced you to buy it. Nobody forced you to read it. I know it's always cool to get caught up in what everybody else is reading. But if you think that this book that everybody loves, you might not like it, then why even bother? Why waste valuable time and money to get said book? But I think it just belabors the point, because it still goes back to the fact that I just think it's been popular of late to share on everything Sarah J. Maas, including the fact that apparently our entire world building was just Google and winging it.
My strange addiction, my doctors can't explain my symptoms.